The Galactic Council chamber fell into an eerie silence as Ambassador Zeixther's scales turned from their usual vibrant blue to a sickly pale gray. His three eyes widened in horror as he stared at the holographic feed displayed before the assembled representatives of 47 species. On the screen, a human, a relatively new addition to the galactic community, was doing the unthinkable. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the quarantine sector of station, her smile bright and genuine as she gently scratched behind the ear analog of a creature that had caused the extinction of 17 civilizations. The Void Stalker, a massive beast with obsidian scales and eyes like dying stars, leaned into her touch with what could only be described as contentment. Its tail, capable of crushing battle cruisers, swayed lazily behind it. "By the ancestors," whispered Ambassador Thorvik, the Kryn representative whose warrior race had lost 3 colony worlds to these very creatures. She's petting it." The humans had been warned. When they first achieved faster-than-light travel and knocked on the galaxy's door, every species had been unanimous in their council. Avoid the Forbidden Three at all costs. These creatures, the Void Stalkers, the Plasma Wraiths, and the Quantum Devourers, were death incarnate, remnants from a darker age of the universe when chaos reigned supreme. But Sarah Chen hadn't received that particular memo. Or perhaps, as her colleagues would later suggest, she simply didn't care. 3 months earlier, Sarah had been assigned to Station as part of humanity's xenobiology research initiative. The station orbited a dying red dwarf in the Terminus sector, a region of space that most species avoided like a plague. It was here that the Galactic Council had established a maximum security containment facility for the universe's most dangerous specimens. Sarah's first encounter with the Void Stalker happened entirely by accident. A containment breach in Sector 7 had sent the station into lockdown. While other researchers evacuated, Sarah found herself trapped in a corridor with the escaped predator. Protocol dictated that she should remain absolutely still, avoid eye contact, and pray that the emergency response team arrived before the creature decided she looked appetizing. Instead, Sarah tilted her head and studied the magnificent beast before her. The Void Stalker was injured. A deep gash across its flank leaked bioluminescent fluid. Without thinking, Sarah reached into her emergency kit and pulled out a medical synthesizer. "Hey there, big guy," she said softly, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "That looks like it hurts. Want some help?" The Void Stalker's multiple eyes fixed on her, and for a moment, time seemed to freeze. Then, impossibly, the creature lowered itself to the ground and extended its injured side toward her. Sarah approached slowly, speaking in soothing tones as she cleaned and treated the wound. When she finished, she did what came naturally. She gave the creature an affectionate pat on its massive head. The Void Stalker rumbled, a sound that vibrated through the station's hull, and pressed its head more firmly against her hand. Word of the incident spread through the station like wildfire. The council demanded an investigation. How had a human survived contact with a Void Stalker? More importantly, why had the creature allowed itself to be touched? The leading theory was that Sarah possessed some unknown pheromone or biological marker that confused the predator. Sarah had a simpler explanation. "He was hurt and scared. I helped him, that's all." The council might have dismissed the incident as an anomaly if it had stopped there. It didn't. 2 weeks later, during a routine inspection of the containment fields, Sarah encountered a Plasma Wraith. These beings were considered even more dangerous than Void Stalkers, sentient, malevolent entities of pure energy that fed on biological matter. They could slip through most forms of containment and had been responsible for sterilizing entire planets. The Plasma Wraith that Sarah met had been captured after destroying a Kryn military outpost. It existed in a perpetual state of rage, constantly testing its electromagnetic prison for weaknesses. When Sarah approached its containment cell for her research, the creature surged against the barriers, its form blazing with fury. "You seem angry," Sarah observed, studying her datapad. "According to these readings, your energy signature is all over the place. Are you in pain?" The plasma wraith pulsed, its response incomprehensible to most beings. But Sarah noticed something, a pattern in the electromagnetic fluctuations. She ran a quick analysis and discovered that the containment field was actually causing the creature distress, its frequency causing resonance in the wraith's core structure. Against all protocols, Sarah adjusted the field parameters. The change was subtle but immediate. The plasma wraith's violent surging stopped. Its form stabilized, shifting from angry reds and oranges to cooler blues and purples. "Better?" Sarah asked. The creature pulsed once, deliberately. Then, to the absolute horror of the monitoring team, it extended a tendril of plasma through a controlled gap in the containment field, a gap it could have used to escape but didn't. The tendril brushed against Sarah's outstretched hand, warm but not burning. Sarah smiled and gently moved her hand through the plasma tendril, as if petting smoke. "You're actually kind of beautiful, you know that." The plasma wraith's response was to create a small light show, patterns of color dancing through its form. Sarah laughed with delight. By now the Galactic Council was in an uproar. Emergency sessions were called, committees formed, papers were written, and Sarah Chen continued her work, oblivious to the political firestorm she'd created. The third encounter was what brought everything to a head. The Quantum Devourer was the most feared entity in known space. It existed partially outside normal spacetime, feeding on the quantum uncertainty of matter itself. Anything it touched ceased to exist on a fundamental level, not destroyed, but unmade. The specimen in the station had been captured at tremendous cost after it had rendered an entire star system probabilistically null. Sarah's meeting with the Devourer wasn't planned. She was working late in the laboratory when the creature's containment field experienced a fluctuation. The Quantum Devourer began to phase through dimensions, its form flickering in and out of observable reality. The station's AI initiated evacuation protocols. Alarms blared, but Sarah, exhausted from a double shift, initially thought it was another drill. By the time she realized the danger, the Devourer was already in the laboratory with her. It was impossible to describe what the Quantum Devourer looked like. Human eyes weren't designed to process something that existed in 12 dimensions simultaneously. Sarah saw fragments, crystalline structures that couldn't exist in three-dimensional space, colors that had no names, movement that happened backward through time. "Okay," Sarah said, her scientific curiosity overriding her fear. "You're either going to eat me or you're not. But while we're here together, can I ask you something? Why do you consume matter?" The Devourer paused. Its fractional existence solidified slightly, as if Sarah's question had anchored it more fully into her reality. Through methods that quantum physicists would spend decades trying to understand, it communicated. Hunger, loneliness, disconnection. Sarah's expression softened. "You're lost, aren't you? Separated from your home dimension, trying to feel something familiar by consuming the quantum states you encounter." The Devourer pulsed with what might have been affirmation. Sarah slowly reached out her hand, not to touch. One couldn't simply touch a being that existed across multiple dimensions, but to offer connection. "I can't send you home. I don't know how, but I can try to make here more comfortable for you." She spent the next 3 hours modifying the containment protocols, creating a field that didn't just trap the Devourer but provided it with quantum fluctuations similar to those of its home dimension. The creature's form stabilized, and for the first time since its capture, it seemed calm. As dawn broke over the station, Sarah found herself gently moving her hand through the probability fields surrounding the Devourer's core, careful not to touch, but close enough to convey comfort. The creature responded by allowing her to perceive its true form, a glimpse of beauty from beyond normal spacetime that brought tears to her eyes. Which brought the scenario back to the current moment in the Galactic Council chamber. The holographic feed now showed Sarah in a specially modified chamber, all three creatures present. She moved between them with easy confidence, adjusting the Void Stalker's feeding apparatus, fine-tuning the Plasma Wraith's containment field, and checking the quantum parameters for the Devourer. And yes, she petted them. All three. The deadliest entities in known space responded to her touch like pets greeting their returning owner. "This is impossible," Ambassador Zeixther finally managed. "The Forbidden Three are weapons of mass extinction. They can't." "Bond," offered the human representative, Ambassador James Morrison, who was trying very hard not to look smug. "Form attachments. Respond to kindness." "They're monsters," Thorvik roared. "They're beings," Sarah's voice came through the feed. She'd noticed the transmission was active. "Powerful, dangerous, yes, but not monsters. They were just scared, hurt, or lost. Everyone and everything responds to compassion, Ambassador. You just have to be brave enough to offer it." She looked directly at the camera, her smile unchanged. "My grandmother used to say that there's no such thing as a bad dog, just bad owners. I think the same applies across the galaxy. These creatures weren't evil. They were traumatized, defending themselves, or trying to survive in a universe that feared them." The Void Stalker chose that moment to nuzzle against Sarah's side, nearly knocking her over. The Plasma Wraith created a gentle light show around her head like a halo, and the Quantum Devourer manifested a probability field that made her appear to exist in multiple places at once, each version of her smiling. The council chamber remained silent for a long moment. Then the eldest, a being so ancient its species name was lost to time, spoke in a voice like grinding tectonic plates. "Perhaps. We have much to learn from humanity about the nature of fear and compassion." Ambassador Morrison finally allowed himself to smile. "Perhaps you do, eldest, perhaps you do." In the weeks that followed, Sarah's methods were studied, documented, and carefully replicated. Other species began approaching the Forbidden Three with new protocols, not as prisoners to be contained, but as beings to be understood. Attacks dropped dramatically. The creatures that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia began to respond to this new approach. And Sarah Chen. She continued her work, one frightened creature at a time, proving that sometimes the most human response, kindness in the face of terror, was also the most effective. The galaxy would never forget the day they froze in terror, while a human smiled and rubbed the heads of three forbidden creatures. But more importantly, they would never forget what that moment taught them about the true nature of courage, compassion, and the universal need for connection. Even monsters, it turned out, just wanted to be understood.